Last weekend, I completed a lifelong goal of mine. I ran my very first marathon. And to do that, I used the Runna training app over the past few months to direct my training. So how did it go? Was it worth the price? And I don't know, would I do it again? First things first, nobody is sponsoring today's video. I paid for the Runna subscription with my own money, so these are my unvarnished opinions. For better or worse. Next housekeeping item, I use this app with my Apple devices, Apple Watch, iPad, and iPhone. So you'll get a pretty wide perspective on how it works, and sometimes doesn't, across a few different platforms, but it is focused on my Apple tech. So after all that, I do want to talk about what I've liked and disliked over the past few months, but we're going to scope around this against 3 different parts. The app on like the phone, the training plan, and then the in-use running coach. Let's start off with the apps. Likes are pretty easy here. It's a fairly in-depth app that not only has your training plan in it, more specifically on that later, but it also has some more general information and capabilities up front. You can see local weather, time to your next event if you've got a plan built, random tips, and you can even create runs or other activities that aren't part of your training plan and just pop them wherever you want to go. I really like the simple nature of the app. It doesn't take too much to figure out on how to navigate. You don't have to be a very big like sports person to really get the most out of it. And I really like that you can just pop in something different if you want. There's a calendar, you can do boop, 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 set it up however you want. And it's really easy to go back and see previous activities and your performance with just a few taps. Another thing I liked was post-run, you could give your opinion on the workout, whether it was good for you, whether it was bad for you, and you would get some feedback from the AI coach. On easy runs, this wouldn't be very useful, but I did like to see if I had a struggle or something. Maybe there was a push I did, or maybe there was some effort that I didn't notice because I was so involved in the run. Afterwards, it would be able to say like, hey, we noticed in mile 3 you were a little fast or you were a little slow. Here's some tips on how to do that. Yes, it is AI. It's not going to be perfect. It does not replace a regular coach. But for those of us that don't have the time or the resources for a regular coach, I liked its responses. I also liked how easy it is to pair the app across devices and across data aggregators. So Apple Health, Strava, all of that was very easy to publish to and collect data from. At first, I did have issues with duplicate postings between all of these. I would do a run and like Strava would say I did a run. Apple Fitness would say I did a run, and then Runna would say I did a run, so I'd have 3 runs published on the same thing. So we had to figure that out, but it was pretty easy to turn off the broadcasters I didn't want. It's also nice how the app groups weeks together and shows you the upcoming workouts and what kind of runs those will be all those weeks out. Once you set it up, you can look out 18 weeks if your plan's that long and be like, okay, in week 18, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. One thing though that I didn't really like about the app was trying to use it on an iPad. For some reason, the Runna app only wanted to work in portrait mode, so trying to check stuff when in landscape mode, like my iPad is in 100% of the time, was impossible and very frustrating. Okay, hey, future Gary doing some B-roll. I logged into my iPad to check out to see if Runna had updated as I'm making the video. And Runna hasn't updated, but the latest version of iPad OS lets it like be in a window in landscape mode. So the app, I'm still right, the app is still in portrait mode, but iPad OS has saved them by allowing it to be portrait in landscape mode, as you can see. Fix your app, Runna. But I did like the versatility of the app. It is running, but as I've learned, there's a lot more to running long distances than just going out and running, right? You gotta make sure your strength training is dialed in. But the most important part of a marathon training plan is the plan the app builds. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm not a marathon expert, so I can't give too much feedback on the efficacies of the built plan, but I do have some things that I enjoyed and didn't enjoy of the plan over the past since April. First, I like that the plan did get me across the finish line for that first marathon. I had a goal of 3 hours and 45 minutes, and while I didn't get there, I got a 4:09, unfortunately. I didn't feel like it was the plan's fault. I was on track for that 3:45 right up until mile 17 when my right quad started cramping up on me, and we had to like struggle bus the rest of the way there. I don't know if you know this, but Baltimore is very hilly, so it was the right quad was very angry with me. I like just having a plan at all. There are tons of other training plans out there, apps and so on and so forth, and maybe we'll try those in the future. But here specifically, getting everything laid out for me as a newcomer was really awesome. Something that I didn't like though, I'd call it the underlying philosophy of the plan. And I didn't really come to understand this until the end of the training, which I mean, I guess it helps me be better the next time though, right? The general rule of thumb, again, very general, I've only run one marathon, certainly not an expert, but the general rule for training is the 80-20 rule, which means 80% easy running, 20% hard running during a training block. And I feel like this Runna training plan was more like 60-40 or even 50-50 at sometimes. Yes, there are only 2 quote-unquote speed workouts a week against 6 days of running, but then the long runs would have sections of marathon pace or speed work inside of them, leading towards almost a majority of my weekly miles being faster than an easy pace. At the end of training, I started to realize this and I manually adjusted the plan to avoid injury. But, I mean, frankly, I spent a big chunk of this block fighting some kind of plantar fasciitis issue or ankle pain issue, and I wonder if it was because I was pushing myself too hard at the beginning without realizing it. Okay, for example, the week ending with a 20-mile race practice run on September 20th of this year, the week had 40.5 miles in total for the week. From the beginning, 10 of those miles were intervals or tempo running. And then the practice long run, again, had 10.5 miles of marathon pace inside of it. That means in a 40-ish mile week, 20 of those miles were at faster than an easy pace. This is just one instance, but this happened a lot through the plan. And I wish I'd caught that sooner and started manually dialing it in a little bit more. Now you can, and this is probably not Runna's fault, this is probably my fault as a Runna app novice, you can customize the plan around things like volume progression or intensity. You gotta dig into the app a little bit more than I did the first time around. And I'm saying this here, even though it's a me problem, because like me, you may have run for many years before getting into marathon training. You may have a little bit of overconfidence in your abilities, and marathon training doesn't really care about your previous 5 miles 4 times a week kind of a thing. Like, you gotta make sure that you're not overtraining, and the app can sometimes lead overconfident people into overtraining. But besides that, I did like the volume progression, which got me more confident in being able to do the seemingly absurd task of running 10, then 12, then 15, then 20 miles in a single workout. Honestly, I still can't believe I did all that. You also do a deload week, so your plan more looks like up, down a little bit, up, down a little bit, up, down a little, like it progresses you up there. But honestly, where I think the most value for the Runna app comes from is the actual running watch app experience. If you have a compatible watch, my Apple Watch Ultra is one, thankfully, you can get that app on the watch, which will sync to your plan and then let you run the workouts through the watch. What this really means is that those tempo or progression runs that have a lot of like, hey, speed up, slow down, speed up, walk, speed up, all that stuff, the app tells you, like it tells you what to do and when. It doesn't like beep or boop, it says, hey, slow down. Hey, speed up. I love this. This legitimately is my favorite part of the whole experience. Most of my training for this October marathon was in the summer, and I have to run before work to avoid the heat of the afternoon. I also go to work early. So I was running at 4 a.m. every day to get my miles in. And I'm not the most awake person on the planet at 4 a.m. So it was really nice to put on my music, set the app, and just let it tell me what to do. Whether to speed up, slow down, when I'd gotten the proper interval distance, everything. The only times I didn't like the watch integration was on short distance intervals, like 200 meters short. The watch wouldn't have time for the GPS to update at my speed increase, so I would find myself running faster to make sure I was hitting my metrics and blah, 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 blah. It was kind of like a downward spiral from there. But everything else, the watch app is great. And for me, this was worth the price of admission. I ended up liking it so much, I actually used the Runna app on race day to keep me on the pace. And it was great up until it wasn't, when it was like, speed up, and I'm like, I'm giving her all I got, app. That was the most frustrating part, where your cardio is like ready to go, like you feel fantastic, your heart rate's perfect, but your leg's cramping and you just can't make it, so blah. Okay, that was a very summarized experience over the last 5-ish months with me using Runna from start through my first completed marathon. Was it perfect? No, there are things that I wish were different, specifically the iPad app being updated. Now I know more about how to use the app, I think I will be able to use this even better in my next training block and manually change around or get the settings right the first time so that I don't have those sort of like overtraining problems I'm going in. But I guess the best thing I can say about Runna is I am planning to run another marathon in April, and I will use Runna to get me there. If you're a new runner, just be careful that you're not overtraining yourself. But if you know how to work the app, it's been fantastic for me. But what about you? Have you tried or do you use Runna? What was your experience? Let us all know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.